Well, nowadays you got to have that because people nowadays.
Before we get straight into the podcast, I just want to give a huge shout out to our sponsors, Declan Kirby GAA Star. Declan Kirby GAA Star Championship Journey. It's a series of GAA team children's books written by primary school teacher and GAA coach Michael Egan. You can check it out in the link in the description down below, of course, as well. Follow the trials and tribulations of Declan Kirby and his team at Smithgreen Gaelic Football Club, recently formed but promising GAA team. The book is now available in Easons and all good bookshops, so check it out in the description down below, and let's get straight into it. What's the story, lads? Welcome back to GAA Fan TV. My name is Aaron. I hope you're all keeping wonderfully well. This is the All-Star football team of the season from what we've seen so far in the All-Ireland Senior Football Championship. I'll be creating my All-Star football team of the year from what I've seen so far in the Championship. Now, do bear in mind these are my picks, so do feel free to disagree. Leave your comments down below and certainly let me know what changes you would make to the team. But this is the team that I have gone with from what I have seen in the All-Ireland Championship so far. And look, listen, it's been a very interesting championship so far. It certainly hasn't been maybe what we expected. You know, some teams maybe not performing to a certain level, and certainly there's a lot of players that we would have thought would have made it onto this team that haven't. So do bear that in mind, and I do expect there'll be a lot of changes to this team as the championship goes on. And I do think that the actual All-Star, my picks for the All-Star football team of the year when the season is over will be a lot different to what the team is now. But certainly this is the team I've gone with, and if you are new around here, hit the like button and subscribe. I would kindly appreciate it. And yeah, let's get straight into it. So we'll start with the goalkeeper, and certainly there were a couple of choices to go with in goal. I mean, what's interesting is normally, you know, Stephen Cluxton would be the obvious choice here for Dublin. Obviously he's retired, and I don't think Evan Comerford is quite at that level just yet. I don't think he's been the best goalkeeper in the championship so far this year, in my opinion. Made a couple of good saves in the Mead game, but I think all in all, you know, even the Daniel Flynn Kildare goal, although it was an unbelievable goal, could he have saved it? Maybe I'm being a bit harsh, I don't know, but you know, he struggled a little bit in the second half against Mead with his kick out, so I don't think he gets in there yet. However, if Dublin do go on and beat Mayo and go on to win the All-Ireland, which I don't think a lot of people are expecting at this moment in time, but if they do, I would expect Evan Comerford to get in there, in my opinion. In terms of some other goalkeepers, Robert Henley's only played 2 games so far. I don't think you can really put him in just yet, in my opinion. You've obviously got Shane Ryan of Kerry, who probably hasn't had that much to do and has conceded a goal in every game so far in the championship, so I don't think he gets in either. And that really leaves the 2 goalkeepers or 2 contenders from Ulster, of Tyrone and Monaghan. You have Niall Morgan of Tyrone and you have Rory Beggan of Monaghan. Now Rory Beggan, I mean, he was very involved certainly in that Ulster final. You know, he was almost playing as a midfielder. He was trying to kick scores. I mean, he was blocking off kick out strategies. I mean, he was doing so much, but I've actually gone for Niall Morgan personally. I think in the Donegal game he made a lot of very big saves. His kick outs were fantastic in the second half. He picked out the extra man, which I believe was Niall Sludden in that Donegal game, if I can remember correctly. You know, he was brilliant at picking Niall Sludden out at different stages, whether he be short or even going long. So I thought Niall Morgan was fantastic in that game. And in the Monaghan game as well, like I'm sure a lot of people might have seen on the Sunday game, obviously they showed how Niall Morgan was almost pushing up as a +1 for Monaghan's kickouts, and it was forcing Rory Beggan to actually kick to the sideline because Niall Morgan was filling in the pockets of space that were available. So I think Niall Morgan gets in there. Will he be the All-Star goalkeeper of the year come the end of the season? Personally, I don't think so, because you know, we've seen he's had a couple of problems against Kerry in the past, and it'll be hard to see Tyrone beat Kerry in all honesty. But for now anyways, he is the goalkeeper and he gets in at number 1. And we move into the full-back line, and in at number 2 we've Brian O'Buglock of Kerry, 3 is Padraig Hampsey of Tyrone, and 4 is Tom O'Sullivan of Kerry. Look, listen, certainly a lot of options we could have put in this full-back line, and obviously Kerry have come under a little bit of criticism so far in terms of their defence. You know, is their defence as good enough to potentially go on and win an All-Ireland? It's definitely, you know, that is the big question. And if Kerry are to fail in winning an All-Ireland this year, you would have to feel it would be the defence that's cost them. But so far in the championship, from playing the Munster in the Munster Championship, okay, it hasn't been against the highest quality of opposition. I think the defence has done a great job, and I think it's actually been the defenders getting forward which has been the most impressive thing. And Brian O'Buglock very much, you know, epitomises that. Obviously the goal he scored against Cork was brilliant. You know, it was a little bit of a worry at different stages in the first half from Brian O'Bugluk in particular, and the Kerry defence, because they were pushing so far up the pitch, they were leaving space in behind, and that was actually how Cork got their goal. But I think all in all, he's been brilliant. Very good in the Clare game. He marked David Tubridy in that game, kept them down to a score of 1-1. So I think, you know, if you're marking a top class forward like David Tubridy, probably Clare's best forward, you know, arguably between him and Owen Cleary, you know, if you're keeping him down to 1-1, I think that's a fantastic job. So I think Brian O'Bugluk gets in there. I mean, some other players, maybe Enda Hession of Mayo has actually been very good. I thought he had a brilliant game in the Galway game. Struggled in the first half, but in the second half really settled, and whether that was Shane Walsh's injury, I'm not too sure. Obviously Mayo's quality of opposition that we're playing in Leitrim and Sligo, you know, it's hard to kind of judge that, but I do think Enda Hession all in all has been very impressive from a Mayo point of view. And Mick Fitzsimons was another good option for Dublin, but struggled in the second half in the Meath game. And, you know, I thought he was actually very good in the Kildare game. He slowed the game down. He was brilliant, but I just don't think he's been better than Brian O'Bugluk. So I think Brian O'Bugluk gets in there, as hard as that is to admit as a Dublin man. But certainly right now, I think Brian O'Bugluk gets in at number 2. 3 is Padraig Hampsey of Tyrone. Now, Padraig Hampsey has played a cornerback at different stages so far in the championship this season, but we are putting him in at fullback. I suppose the other options here, Oisin Mullen of Mayo, he is in the team. We'll get on to him in a moment, but I haven't put him in the fullback line. Davy Byrne was another option of Dublin, but for me, I don't think he gets anywhere near the team personally so far this year. I think Daniel Flynn got the better of him on numerous occasions in the Dublin game, and I think he struggled against Meath at different stages as well. His decision making wasn't quite there. So Davy Byrne, not yet, but certainly if Dublin are to progress and you know, go a lot further, you would expect Davy Byrne would be in with a shout. Certainly with a lot of other Dublin players as well, you'd expect the same. So, but Padraig Hampsey for Tyrone has been fantastic. I mean, brilliant in the Donegal game. You know, there was different stages where Donegal were creating a lot of goal chances, but Padraig Hampsey was often the man in the right time to get the blocks in, to get the challenges in, and obviously getting forward as well, just offering that different output. You know, he'd be the one providing the passes to Conor McKenna or Darren McCurry, or, you know, sure hand passing to his left or to his right. So I think Padraig Hampsey gets in there without doubt for me. Jason Foley of Kerry, maybe he's another shout, but I've gone with Padraig Hampsey personally. I think he's had more of an impact with Tyrone than Jason Foley of Kerry. But once again, we'll see what happens when the championship comes to an end. But right now, Padraig Hampsey in at number 3. And 4 is Tom O'Sullivan, and I don't think there can be any debates about this whatsoever. I think Tom O'Sullivan has been fantastic for Kerry so far. I mean, scoring points. I mean, there's not many cornerbacks that get as forward as he does and kicking points, and he's been absolutely tremendous. Don't think there can be any question marks about it whatsoever. He's been brilliant for Kerry, so he gets in at number 4. Some potential players that might maybe get in there between now and the end of the season. If Owen Merchant comes back into the Dublin side, maybe he might play in the half-back line. You know, he's obviously back from injury now, so maybe he might be in contention. And Lee Keegan, maybe if Mayo are to do something special against the Dubs, you know, he could get in there. But certainly right now, Tom O'Sullivan of Kerry for me. We move into the half-back line. Number 5 is Niall Sludden, 6 is Oisin Mullen, and 7 is Gavin White. Niall Sludden of Tyrone so far has been brilliant for Tyrone, brilliant at getting forward, offering that attacking output. Man of the match in the Donegal game, without doubt. He was the extra man, and you know, they pushed him further up the pitch, and he was absolutely fantastic. Don't think there can be any debates about Niall Sludden. I think he was absolutely brilliant in the game against Monaghan as well. So he gets in at 5. 6 is Oisin Mullen. I think, yeah, you know, Oisin Mullen's obviously played a full-back at a lot of time this season, but he did play at half-back or centre-back, we should say, in the Galway game. Yeah, brilliant so far from Oisin Mullen. And I mean, look, listen, like what I was saying earlier, it's a tricky one with Mayo. It's kind of similar with Kerry. They're obviously not playing as, I mean, same for Dublin as well. They're not playing as high-level opposition as what Tyrone have played. But I think Oisin Mullen's been brilliant so far, and I think I much prefer Oisin Mullen, you know, in and around the half-back line or in a cornerback. I think he can utilise his best assets there, in my opinion, which is getting forward. And it will be interesting to see, you know, what happens in the Dublin game. He marked Con O'Callaghan last year in the final, and I think Con O'Callaghan had a pretty good game, won man of the match from what I remember. So that'll be an interesting one, but I do think Oisin Mullen's been brilliant so far, so he gets in at 6. And Gavin White gets in at 7 for for Kerry. I mean, obviously in the league he was absolutely brilliant, scored that absolute wonder goal from about 50 yards. I mean, that was extraordinary stuff from Gavin White. Maybe not 50 yards, I think it was around 40 yards or so, but it was still a tremendous goal. And in the championship, he's carried that form in as well, kicking points, you know, a modern day wing back, overlapping on the midfielders and the half forwards at different stages, creating that extra bit of space for the Kerry attack. So I think Gavin White gets in at 7. And we move into the midfield, and first of all we've David Moran of Kerry and we've Matthew Ruane of Mayo. I suppose some other options first of all. I mean, I think Jeremy O'Connor has been fairly impressive for Kerry up until he got injured against Cork, and I do think Brian Fenton has been very good for Dublin. He was quiet enough against Kildare, but I think we've seen Dublin obviously slow the possession down, slow the game down, passing it from side to side, and Brian Fenton was absolutely fantastic at that. And in the Meath game, he was arguably man of the match from a Dublin point of view, in my opinion. Won the penalty, kicked a couple of points in extra time. He was absolutely fantastic in my opinion. But I do think David Moran and Matthew Ruane certainly right now have just been a little bit better. Matthew Ruane in particular, the pick out of the two midfielders, that goal against Galway, like he just really grabbed that game by the scruff of his neck. I mean, like that forward run for the goal, beating one or two players and then slotting it through the legs of Conor Gleeson. I mean, a tremendous finish from Matthew Ruane, who really is standing up for this Mayo side so far this year. You know, very big, tall, physical presence, and I'm very intrigued once again about the, you know, Dublin and Mayo game. You know, could we see Matthew Ruane going up against Fenton, or will the matchups be different? So it is going to be interesting. And David Moran for Kerry so far, look, listen, the opposition he's been coming up against hasn't been as good in Clare, Cork and Tipperary, but he's been brilliant so far. You know, kicking points from 40 yards, 30 yards when he needs to. You know, sometimes the extra bit of space will open up for David Moran, because I think a lot of opposing defenders of both Cork and Tip in particular, you know, they invited David Moran to have a go, and more often than not his efforts would go over the bar. So I think he's been brilliant so far, you know, catching the high balls when they've come in as well. Brilliant on the kick out. So I think David Moran has been good. I would be a little bit concerned going into the Dublin game. He wasn't, or the Tyrone game should I say, and potentially Dublin or Mayo, didn't look great in the league against the Dubs, and he isn't the quickest, so that would be a little bit of a worry for Kerry fans, I'm sure, but he gets in at number 8 for me. We then move into the half forward line. We've Cormac Costello of Dublin at 10. We've Sean O'Shea of Kerry at 11. And we've Ryan O'Donoghue of Mayo at 12. Now, Cormac Costello, as we very well know, normally either plays at 15 or 13 and normally plays in the full forward line. But there have been so many good forwards in the championship so far this year, it's very hard to fit them all in. So we've put Costello in at 10 and Sean O'Shea at 11. Ryan O'Donoghue at Mayo. Ryan O'Donoghue would normally or usually play in the full forward line as well. Cormac Costello of Dublin, the only Dublin player to make it in this team. I mean, that's a big surprise in my opinion. I would never have expected to have only put one Dublin player in. And to be honest with you, James McCarthy came close, to be fair. I think he's been impressive, but, you know, made a bit of a blunder for the Daniel Flynn goal and at different stages hasn't looked as good as what he normally would be. Evan Comerford, you could argue, maybe gets in there. Con O'Callaghan doesn't get in there. You know, had one good half of football against Meath. Other than that, doesn't get in there. Like, Brian Fenton was another potential player that could get in there. Kieran Kilkenny, to be fair, is actually the unlucky one. I think he has been impressive for Dublin. I think he struggled against Meath in the second half, you know, early on. Like, he missed a couple of chances, a couple of misplaced passes. Against Kildare in the second half, he really stood up and he was that link man once again, and he was just slowing the game down. And he was brilliant. But I can't look past Cormac Costello. I think he's been fantastic for Dublin so far, not just in the championship but in the league as well. Scored a penalty obviously against Meath, dispatched it brilliantly, missed a couple of frees against Wexford, and certainly hasn't been at his absolute best so far. But I think what impressed me the most against Kildare was his defensive output as well. I think that's been a criticism maybe of Cormac Costello down the years, is that maybe he's not a team player like the likes of your Noel Scullys or some of the other players, Paddy Small for example. You know, but Cormac Costello getting back, winning a couple of challenges, getting forward, you know, just waiting for those right opportunities, not shooting from ridiculous angles or anything like that. So I think he's been brilliant and he gets in at 10. Sean O'Shea in at 11, you know, definitely one of the contenders for Footballer of the Year so far, in my opinion. I mean, what can you say about Sean O'Shea? I mean, he's just such a skillful, brilliant, fast and fluent player. I mean, creating space for himself. scoring goals, brilliant on the frees. I mean, there's not much that Sean O'Shea can't do. Very reliable player in this Kerry team. Very experienced player for how young he is as well. He's been around the block for quite a while now, a couple of, 3 or 4 years or whatever for Kerry. So he's been absolutely brilliant, no doubt about it, getting in at 11. And 12 is Ryan O'Donoghue. I've been very impressed with Ryan O'Donoghue so far for Mayo. I mean, I remember him in the Dublin game in the All-Ireland final last year, and just such a explosive footballer, like just very sharp, running off the shoulder, just giving players the shimmy and just moving into the pockets of space. He's been brilliant for Mayo so far and scored a perfectly good goal against Galway. They got ruled out. Did score a goal that was allowed as well, but probably should have had 2 goals on the day, in my opinion. He's been brilliant. He's been absolutely fantastic. Just driving at the fences, doing what Mayo do best. And I'm going to be honest, as a Dublin man, I'm a little bit worried to see how Dublin deal with Ryan O'Donoghue in that game, because he caused Dublin a lot of problems in the first half. He really, really did in that final last year. So he's been fantastic. He gets in at number 12. Moving into the full forward line, we've Darren McCurry of Tyrone in a 13. We've Matty Donnelly of Tyrone in a 14. And we've Paddy Clifford of Kerry in a 15. Look, listen, I think a lot of people would have probably had David Clifford in a 15 at the start of the season, but it is his brother Paddy that gets in there, in my opinion, and I don't think there can be any doubt about it. I think he's been Footballer of the Year so far, in my opinion. I think he's been absolutely exceptional, but we'll get on to him in a moment. 13, first of all. I mean, look, listen, David Clifford probably still could have got in there. I mean, he scored 1-6 against Clare. He was quiet enough against Cork. He was marked out of the game brilliantly by Sean Meehan. Scored a goal as well against Tipperary. He hasn't needed to be at his best. And look, listen, if Kerry are going to go on and win an All-Ireland, which a lot of people at this moment in time, they are the favourites right now to win an All-Ireland. So if they do go on to do it, I think David Clifford will get in this team. But right now, I think Darren McCurry has been, up there with Paddy Clifford and Sean O'Shea as potentially Footballer of the Year. Like, he definitely gets in the question mark, or definitely gets in the debate. He was quiet enough in the second half of the Monaghan game. He was quiet enough in general in that game, but did show some moments of brilliance as well. Like, just a wand of a left foot, brilliant. Like, they're almost snapshots in many ways. Like, he doesn't need much space at all. Just a brilliant kick of the ball. Like, even his points just look brilliant as well. They just look absolutely fantastic. So Darren McCurry gets in there. Matty Donnelly of Tyrone in a 14. I mean, he's been brilliant as well for Tyrone. Obviously had that dummy against Monaghan where he sold one of the Monaghan defenders down a river. I mean, that was unbelievable stuff from Matty Donnelly. He was quiet enough in the second half, but again, he's the experienced head in that team. He drives forward when he needs to. He drops back when he needs to as well. Brilliant, very experienced player for Tyrone, so he gets in at number 14. In at number 15 is Paddy Clifford, and I don't think there can be too much debate here whatsoever. I mean, Paddy Clifford has been absolutely tremendous so far for Kerry this year. There's been no doubt about it. I mean, he's the link man in that team. He's been absolutely fantastic. Just linking the play, being that extra outlet at different times as well, picking a pass, dropping back as well, just being the man to find the better players in the better positions, whether it be Sean O'Shea, David Clifford, Paul Gainey. He's been absolutely tremendous, and you can't really argue against Paddy Clifford. He's been absolutely brilliant so far for Kerry this year. Brilliant ball carrier as well, brilliant in possession, and you just can't argue against it. You really can't. So he gets in at 15 in my opinion, and I would fully expect him to be there at the end of the season as well, and I would expect that he's probably the favourite right now to get Footballer of the Year. We'll see what happens between now and the end of the season, but certainly Paddy Clifford, no doubt about it, getting in at 15. Some other players that arguably could have gone in the full forward line. I mean, Tommy Conroy's been very impressive so far for Mayo. He was absolutely brilliant in the game versus Galway, like just a driving at the fences as well, and has a brilliant right foot, brilliant at kicking points. Darren McHale has actually been very impressive for Mayo as well. Scored a host of goals and points against both Leitrim and Sligo, but didn't start in the Galway game, so he doesn't get in my opinion. I think the other players are just a little bit better, but certainly he would be a great shout. He's been brilliant so far for Mayo, no doubt about that. In terms of some other players, like Paul Gainey, he's been impressive for Kerry so far. David Clifford, like I mentioned before, could have arguably got in there. And look, listen, you've got your usual suspects like Conor Callaghan and Dean Rock. If they get firing, they could get in there. And Noel Scully's another one as well, who's always generally in with a shout as well. So look, listen, that is my All-Star Football Team of the Year. Feel free to let me know, or let me know yours in the comments down below, and leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you all for the next video.